In 2015, Becky Jo Allen was living in Liverpool, United Kingdom, with her boyfriend and young daughter. Balancing a career and motherhood was not an easy task at 23, but she was up for the challenge despite being so young that one day Becky Jo discovered she was pregnant again, only this time she was facing a completely different situation than her first pregnancy. Unbeknownst to her, her life was about to do a complete 180, and even after she delivered her new children, she had a surprise in store that she never could have expected. Becky Jo had everything she could have possibly wanted. Not only was she the proud mom of a little girl named Indiana, but she was also pursuing a career in children's nursing. But her life wasn't all work and no play. Despite having a busy schedule, Becky Jo knew that the best way to stay sane was to have a social life. Fortunately, she had a lot of personal friends that she could hang out with when there was time. But she had no idea what kind of curveball life was soon going to throw her way. She had a soft spot for animals. It's the main reason why she decided to become a vegetarian. Clearly, her daughter had a great role model to look up to, but Becky Jo was human, and what she was about to deal with was really going to test her limits. At the time, Becky Jo was living with her boyfriend Liam Tierney, who was also Indiana's father. Although they were in their early 20s, the couple had talked about having more kids. So when she discovered she was pregnant again, the couple rejoiced. But things didn't go the way they were expecting. Becky Jo had been pregnant before, so she knew that fatigue, increased urination, and nausea were some of the more common symptoms. But the headaches and nausea she felt this time around were far more intense. Out of concern, she and Tierney decided to see a doctor. Becky Jo was a little nervous while she lay on the examination table waiting to be seen. Luckily, she had her boyfriend at her side holding her hand. Then the doctor came in and started to do an ultrasound, and what they saw on the monitor was shocking. The ultrasound revealed that they were having more than one baby this time. This was the reason why Becky Jo felt so strange compared to her last pregnancy. But when the couple was told they were having triplets, they were surprised. It was, however, a happy surprise. It was the biggest shock of my life, Becky Jo shared in an interview. We haven't got any triplets in the family, so it came completely out of the blue. Science appeared to back up her claim too. In a lot of multiple pregnancy cases, there is always one parent who comes from a family of twins or triplets, but Becky Jo and Tierney didn't come from those types of families. But there was another reason why this pregnancy was so unusual. From a statistical perspective, the odds of a woman getting pregnant with triplets is about 1 in 9,000. And it's even more unusual in women who were Becky Jo's age at the time. But there was one way this could have happened. Fertility treatments are one of the ways that women can wind up with twins, triplets, or more in the womb. But the triplets growing in Becky Jo's stomach occurred without medical assistance. And yet the couple wasn't complaining until the 7th month of the pregnancy had progressed normally over a course of several months. But during the 31st week, everything changed. Becky Jo began to experience contractions. It was too soon to go into labor, and she worried that something was wrong. So Tierney drove her to the hospital right away. For years, it had just been the three of them. Now all of a sudden they were hit with the possibility that they were only moments away from becoming a family of 6. But could Becky Jo deliver these babies safely? Or would she soon be confronted with a terrifying decision? Becky Jo underwent an emergency section to ensure that the triplets would survive, and fortunately they all did. In 2015, little Roman, Rocco, and Rohan were welcomed into the world. Both the mother and father were elated, but not for long. The premature triplets were placed in neonatal intensive care, and Becky Jo and Tierney were going out of their minds. A healthy baby boy was supposed to weigh approximately 5 pounds, but Rocco only weighed 3 pounds and 5 ounces. Meanwhile, his brother Roman weighed 3 pounds and 6 ounces, while his other brother Rohan weighed 3 pounds and 10 ounces. Medical professionals monitored the triplets' heart rates and respiratory rates constantly. Their temperatures and blood pressures were checked as well. This was a process that was supposed to continue for the first 6 weeks of their little lives, and it was difficult for their parents to witness. The triplets were no longer growing in the safety and comfort of their mother's womb, but they still needed to develop. So they remained in the neonatal ICU under close observation until they fully developed. In the meantime, the only way their parents and big sister, Indiana, could see them was through windows. Becky Jo explained that the triplets were born minutes apart. At 31 weeks, each baby had their own neonatal intensive care journey. They were all born in different conditions. It's so hard having 3 babies in different circumstances all fighting for life in their own ways. Some days you can't hold one because they aren't doing too good, but the others are having a good day and you can hold them, but then suddenly you're riddled with guilt. Becky Jo shared and added, but watching them hitting milestones like sucking a dummy for 5 seconds and starting to gain weight and feed through a bottle all makes it worthwhile that the triplets didn't suffer any serious complications during their 6-week stay in the NICU. Meanwhile, Becky, Joe, and Tierney maintained their sanity by preparing the baby room for the eventual arrival of their newborns. But when the day came, something happened that scared them nearly to death. The triplets were finally home, and Becky, Joe, and Tierney couldn't have been happier. But on that first night, baby Roman stopped breathing, and his parents almost died from fear. But luckily, it was just a hiccup, and he started breathing again soon after. The triplets were doing great health-wise. With each passing day, they got stronger and stronger. The only problem was that they looked so identical to one another that it was nearly impossible for people to tell them apart. This forced Becky Joe to investigate. Becky Joe wanted to know if her newborns were all identical twins or if they were fraternal twins. If they were fraternal, then that would mean that each of them came from a different egg. But she had a theory about her triplets that she desperately wanted to prove to be correct. She believed that 2 of her boys were likely identical, meaning that they came from the same egg, which essentially split into 2. This process basically creates a clone of the other embryo, resulting in an identical twin. And the only way they develop any differences is because of environmental impact. In most cases, however, twins and triplets turn out to be fraternal, but only the results could shed a light into this mystery. It turns out that the triplets weren't fraternal at all. Roman, Rocco, and Rohan had all come from the same egg. This meant that they were all identical, which was rare indeed because this only happens once in approximately 200 million births. From the test results, Becky Joe discovered that the chances of having fraternal twins is 1 in 67 and 1 in 250 for identical twins. But for her, this happened 2 times. First, the egg split into 2, and then the second egg, which was identical to the first, split again, creating another identical human being. Becky, Jo, and Tierney had a tough time telling their newborns apart because they were virtually identical. But eventually they found a way. They've all got dark birthmarks between their eyebrows. Roman's birthmark is slightly darker than the others, and Rohan has got a birthmark on his leg as well. She said, Mothers have good instincts when it comes to identifying their twins, or in this case triplets, and Becky Joe was no exception. I don't get them mixed up, it's only when they're asleep that they look the same to me. They all have different personalities, she claimed. Despite a rough start, the triplets adjusted well to their new life at home with their 2 loving parents and their big sister, Indiana. But although her new siblings required a lot tender loving care from her mom and dad, she never felt left out. Becky Joe was so excited to be a mom that she wrote the following on her Instagram page. I love being a mom to my 4 special babies. I've got the triplets and they have shown me another side to motherhood that not many people get to experience but us lucky multiple moms. Becky Joe was happy that life had given her 4 gorgeous kids, but it wasn't always smooth sailing. All of her kids were under the age of 5 at the time and they needed her constant attention. But while she did her best, she had to make some adjustments. Becky Joe had family members who were more than happy to help her and tear me out, but even then the demands on her time and energy were great. So she put her nursing career on hold, but promised to get back to it once the triplets were old enough to go to preschool. Unfortunately, not everything went so well. Things didn't work out with Tierney and the couple decided to split up. This left Becky Joe home alone with 4 kids to raise. But he wasn't a slacker either. Tierney did offer financial support and visited the kids, but it wasn't the same as having him for support 24/7. Being a single mom who was earning a living while trying to get back to her career at some point was a challenge. Her boys went through 4 packs of baby formula per day. She also had to buy 520 diapers and 20 wet wipes a month. And this wasn't even taking into account her eldest daughter's needs. Although her budget was tight, she had plenty of help from her family when she needed it, and she made sure her kids had everything they wanted. She even managed to make the triplets' first Christmas great. Becky Joe put the triplets in adorable matching holiday pajamas, and there were also plenty of presents for the kids. This was evident in this photo of the triplets' first Christmas together with their mom and big sister, but one-on-one time was still a tough gift to buy. All 4 kids are constantly looking for mom's attention, especially with their dad out of the picture, so it's like she's doing double the work. She even said having triplets is the most rewarding thing, but it's so hard trying to give them all that special one time. Most of the time, I'm juggling 3 little people in my arms or balancing them on my knee, Becky Joe shared with her Instagram followers. Regardless, she had done a great job making it work, even when she has had to have grandma take care of them once in a while, so she can get some sleep. It was about 1.5 years before Becky Joe was able to go out and hang out with friends. Last night was the first time in 15 months my boys have stayed out, she shared on social media. So I had a night out to the boxing, but it was still hard caring for her triplets, especially given their unique personalities. As time went on, the triplets' personalities started to surface. Roman was the comedian of the bunch. Everything he does is funny. Even when he was tiny, he had something about him which just made me laugh, she said. But Rohan isn't a fan of sticky stuff. Play Deo. Rohan hates it. He hates anything that can stick to him, or with the texture. This is the total opposite of his brother Rocco, who thinks sticky texture is always food and he loves it. Becky Jo knew by now that she couldn't tear these three apart. They have always had each other's backs and they often waited until she left the room to make a mess. But despite having to clean up after them, she loves them to the moon and back. Don't you just love the bond between these she shared on Instagram? Actually unbreakable. They are friends forever. For all the negativity we have to listen to, this picture makes me forget all about it, because look at them. Although their bond is strong, they also fight a lot, according to their mother, who always has to play referee. On Instagram, Becky Jo wrote they have the cutest bond. Don't be fooled though, because they also bite and scratch each other. Having triplets was never something that she and Tierney ever planned, but she wouldn't change a thing. We all have different lives which can change overnight. We never planned to have 4 children, but look, we wouldn't change a thing because everything happens for a reason, she explained on social media. Once her triplets were old enough to go to school, Becky Jo had no idea what to do with all the extra time. Weekdays, I literally never know what to do with myself, even when I'm occupied with my work, housework, and everything else, she wrote on social media. Becky Jo eventually decided that it was time to revisit her nursing career. This was a goal she knew would be difficult given that she was a single mom. Applied to uni again this year, and how I am going to juggle it alone with them I'll never know, she shared with her social media followers. Plus it is going to be hard. But it's all for them, she added. They are my willpower, and I will be the best role model for them to look up to. I do the best I can for them and always will. Sometimes I wish I could do more, but it's so hard because I'm limited with having 4 of them. By 2020, Becky Jo had to do online college courses while also homeschooling her 4 kids. My second year of nursing starts tomorrow at 9 a.m. Online, she wrote on social media. Homeschooling 4 kids and doing a degree at the same time under the same roof is going to be the craziest thing I've ever had to do. Pray for me. Indiana's birthday is 2 weeks after the triplets, so Becky Jo throws one big party for all of them. But the boys aren't always easy to manage. Once upon a time, I used to be able to put 3 little humans to bed and not hear a peep, Becky Jo shared with her followers. However, things have changed, and tonight I have been up the stairs 17 times in the last hour putting the same little humans back in bed because they have escaped. It's been a long road for Becky Jo, but she has done an incredible job that her kids are healthy and happy, and even as she continues to work on her nursing career, she has one single-minded purpose. Everything I do is for you, she wrote on her Instagram in regards to her kids.